Okay, I'm getting a little more comfortable speaking to the camera, but I wanted to tell you the story about, I'm going to call it nursing home ministry, but it's just what happened at, um, in the beginning when this was like 10, 12 years ago. I was, well, previously I had signed up for a ministry at church. It was called Friendly Visitor, and they assigned me to a guy named Tom. And Meg and I made friends with Tom, and because he needed so much help, Meg helped me with him, and we um, got him an apartment and um, got him things from the secondhand store so that he could um, like we didn't pay for the apartment. He had uh, assistance coming from the county or whatever, and but we arranged for a place for him to stay that his assistants paid for, and then we helped him get plates and chairs and things like that. But he had a friend um, that we used to go visit. I would take him there to the nursing home here in our hometown, and so that was, you know, like before all this happened to me with um, healing ministry or whatever you want to call it. But so all these all these things are happening. I'm having trouble getting going here. Sorry. Um, all these things are happening. There's power, praying for people, healing, seeing things happen. And I was at work, and I just happened to be near that nursing home where we used to go visit. And we actually used to live right across the street from there in an apartment building. I was picking up the trash at at the apartment where we used to live, and it just came on me that um, that we should go back there, or I should go there, and because the Lord wanted me to do something, and I wasn't sure. But then I started thinking about when we lived there, and some pretty significant things happened there. Um, like my brother and I, oldest brother, we had not always gotten I mean, he was like a father to me, but then we had a falling out, and then we tried to reconcile, and we had another falling out, and one day we got in a fist fight right in the street, right in front of our house, and the police came, and also the kid that lived across the street from our apartment there he when I got baptized at church, we were in a mega church, so you could go to church with your best friend and not know, because there's just so many people there. But when I got baptized, I came up out of the tank, and he was standing there. This kid I used to sell drugs to and buy drugs from. He threw his arms around me. Pete was his name, and he said, "You got saved. So did I." He was so excited, and it was cool to see him in church. And he had gotten married and had kids, and his life was much better than when I knew him previously. And So that had happened right there, and I called Meg and I said, I think the Lord wants us to go to this nursing home, but I'm not quite sure. And then I hung up, and I was thinking, if I could have a sign, Lord, like a big red arrow in the sky pointing to the nursing home, then I would be sure that it was you, Lord, wanted us to go there. And I was kind of joking, but so then I went to drive away, and I went out of the parking lot another way than I'd come in. And when I pulled up, I was facing the nursing home, and there was a parking sign there, and it had a red arrow on it, to point people to the parking. But when I looked at it, the arrow was pointing right at the building, and I'm like, okay, Lord, you want us to go here. And so I told Mag, okay, this is the thing, Lord wants us to go there. And so we went there, and before we went in, we talked about it. It was like, we really believe this is of the Lord, that something supernatural is going to happen when we go in there. But if we're wrong, and what our plan was to find out if Tom's girlfriend was still there, because she was a Catholic person, and when we'd go and visit her, she had a crucifix on the wall and a picture of the Lord on the table, and she used to call Jesus my Lord, not the Lord. And so did that kid that met me at the baptismal tank. He used to say the same thing. He would call Jesus my Lord. So there was this connection, and in my head anyway, I don't know. But so we were going to go there and ask if she was still there, Sue. And so we had decided before we walked in the door that if she wasn't there, that we would ask if there was anyone else there that could use a visit, so that we're not wasting our time, and we'll just visit somebody who doesn't have visitors. And so we go in there and talk to the person at the desk, is there somebody named Sue still here from 5 years ago? And she didn't know. She had only worked there a couple of months or something. So she said, let me talk to the nurses on duty. And so she left and came back, and they let us come in, and we're talking to them, and we tried to describe her, and she had been there like 3 years or something, and they didn't know anyone named Sue. And so we were kind of disappointed, because we really thought Sue was a key to this whole thing. And so we went to turn around and leave. Thank you very much, But then we remembered, just as we were walking away, what we had said, that we would ask if there was anyone else there that needed a visit. And so we both remembered at the same time, turned around at the same time, and said at the same time, is there anyone here that could use a visit? And so there was two nurses. They talked it over for a second, and they said, well, Rosie, she could use a visit. So they took us to Rosie's room, and we went in there, and here, this Rosie person, she was the sister of a lady that used to watch our kids when they were really little. I would drop the kids off at her house, and Rosie was um, like mentally challenged. Like she was a little kid, even though she was an older lady, and she used to play with the kids. And here she is, 90 years old in a nursing home now. So we felt that that's what the Lord wanted us to, be in her life, because she didn't have any visitors, and she's a very special person. And we started loving on her, and we'd go visit her a couple times a week, and not, well, once a week or every other week or something, and then so I would just go, and Meg would talk to her, and I wasn't really comfortable with older people, or nursing home ministry or whatever, or making small talk. But Meg was amazing at it, and so she met another lady there too. So then we were visiting two ladies, and then three, and then she said to me, "You should, make friends here." And I'm like, "I don't know anything about that, and but then I tried it, I just remembered how she did it. She would just talk to them and say, "How long have you been here? Do you have any family?" And just things like that. And so that's what I did. I just started talking to the men and making friends there. And so it went on for quite a while, and I had 5 men that I would go and visit on a regular basis, one-on-one. I'd visit one, then the other, then the other. And it got to a point where I felt like I could add another person. And I said to the Lord, I said, I have room in my heart for a 6th person to visit, but I don't know who it should be. So I was in the lunchroom having lunch with Harold. Harold was this guy. He was like 95. He was a carpenter by trade, and worked for Belinsky Homes, which is a big builder in our area. And he, I would try to tell him about the Lord, and he was like, "No, David, it's too late for me. I like your visits and stuff, but this whole Jesus thing is just beyond me now. It's too late for me. I'm too old." And so I was talking to Harold when I was thinking there was room in my heart for another person. And so I looked around the room, and here was a guy. His name is Donald, I found out, but I didn't know that at the time. And he was sitting all by himself. All the other tables were full, and he was all alone by himself. And I thought, okay, this is the guy. And I went over and I said, "Hi, my name's Dave, and I visit people here in the nursing home. Can I sit by you and talk to you?" And he kind of grumbled at me, and he said, "I'd rather be left alone." And I'm like, "Okay." And I walked away, and then the next day, or the next time that I came to the home, I was in the parking lot, and I prayed, "Lord, I have room for one more person in my heart, and I'm not very good at this, so could you give me some help?" I said, "I'm going to walk in the door, and the first man that I see, that will be the one you want me to add to the group of men that I'm visiting." And so in faith, I went into the building, and here was Donald. He was sitting in the lobby of the nursing home. And so I was like, okay, here, try it again, So I sat down next to him. Hi, remember me? My name's Dave, and we talked briefly the other day, and I was wondering if I could talk to you. Yeah, I guess. So I asked him, how long have you been here? Do you have any family? Do they come and visit? What did you used to do for a living? And Donald was a deacon at the Lutheran church in town for like 50 years, and he had been in the nursing home for a year, and he had a daughter who never came and visited him. And so then when we got finished talking, I asked him if I could come and see him again, and he said, yeah. He says, you know what, you make it really easy. And I was like, what do you mean? He says, to talk. He says, I don't usually find it very easy to talk to people, and you made it very easy, thank you. And so that was the beginning of our relationship, Donald and mine. And he was more mobile than the other guys, more able to like, they let him out, and I would take him out for breakfast, and we'd hang out quite a bit. And then one day he asked me, how much did they pay you to come to the nursing home? And I said, well, they don't pay me. I just come and do this. I'm just visiting friends. I consider you a friend. And he said, what church do you go to? And I told him we were going to Weatherstone Church at the time. And he said, well, I want to go to your church. It was Sunday. He said, let's go to your church. And I'm like, I had been going on Saturday night to the service so that on Sunday I could go to the nursing home. And I had gone the night before, and it was the weekend when the teenagers were doing the worship, and they had, electric guitars and loud drums, and it was very loud, and I thought he wouldn't like it, And I said, no, I don't think you would like it. And he insisted that he come. So I took him to church, and he was sitting next to me with his head down. I thought he was sleeping. And our pastor, who's an evangelist, he gave a really good message, and he always invites people to receive the Lord after the message, and he did it that day, and he asked if anyone wanted to receive the Lord, and then all of a sudden, Donald, his hand goes up, and I'm like, what? So Donald goes down and receives the Lord, and eventually he got baptized, and him and I became, he was like a father to me, in that if my father was in a nursing home, I would visit him that often, and he'd come to our home, and when we'd have family gatherings at Christmas and birthdays and things like that, and when I would take teams on the mission field, he would come to the meetings, and him and I became close friends, and so I was shocked one day when I came in there, and he said, I can't be your friend anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, my Lutheran pastor came, and he said, he knew about Donald getting baptized, and and he didn't like it, I guess, and he thought there was a problem, and he said, if you quit hanging out with this Dave guy, we'll take you back in, and we'll see that you get visitors, and when you die, you'll go to heaven. Otherwise, we're not too sure. And I said, well, you don't have to go to my church. I mean, this isn't about church and everything. You're my friend, you're like, I'll take you to their church if that's what you want. And he said, no, I can't be your friend anymore. And it broke my heart because, just the whole religious thing, and it was like, I really loved Donald, and it hurt. And so I quit going to the nursing home because it was so painful what happened, and I was, I was grieving the loss of our friendship, and it was a wound, and so, but I always wondered about the other guys, one of them had died while I was still going there, so there was 4 of them, and Harold was sticking out in my mind. I always wondered about Harold because he was just such a nice guy, and I was kind of sad that our friendship ended because of what happened with Donald and I, and it was pretty much my fault because I should have been able to keep going there, but I was hurting and just didn't want to deal with the pain. And so about 8 months later or something, I was going to church, and we always went early, and so I was driving. Meg would come later, I would go, and we'd take 2 cars, and I was driving to church, and the Lord spoke to me. He said, Dave, I'm like, yes, Lord. He's like, I want you to go to the nursing home. And I'm like, no, Lord, I'm not going back there. It's too painful. Then he said, Dave? And I'm like, yes. So I want you to go to the nursing home. So I pulled over on the side of the road, and I said, Lord, it hurts too much there. Like, I don't want to go back. I want you to go. So I called Meg, and I said, the Lord wants me to go back to the nursing home, and I don't want to go. What should I do? And she's like, if the Lord wants you to go, you should go, And I'm like, but it hurts. And she said, if he's telling you to go, you should go. So I drove over there against my desires, I guess, or I really was not wanting to go, but I parked in the parking lot and I started crying, because it was so painful. But I was going to go in there and stand in the fire and be hurt again, I guess it felt like. And I just prayed. I said, Lord, I don't want to go in here, but you want me to go in here, so I'm going to go. And so I went straight to Donald's room, and he was sleeping. And I was like, I guess I dodged a bullet here, and I started to leave. I thought, good, I don't have to get hurt again. But as I'm walking out the door, Harold's room was right across the hallway. And so I thought, I'll just peek in to see how Harold's doing. And I bumped into the nurse as she's rushing out the door. Like, we collided. And she said, how did you get here so soon? And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, Harold is dying. He's having, he's in the last breaths of life, and we just called the family like a minute ago to tell them and you're here already. How did that happen? And then she rushed off, and so I went into the room, and Harold was, he was doing the death rattle thing. His mouth was open, and he was, breathing like every couple of breaths every minute or something, And I prayed with him, and I told him the Lord had sent me, and that it wasn't too late, and that God loved him, and that everything was going to be okay, that the Lord knew him and was going to receive him into heaven. And then, I stayed with him for a while, and then his family showed up, and I left. But I was very encouraged by what happened, because, the Lord spoke so clearly, and it was the timing was just amazing, and it just encouraged me that, if I got off track, he could speak and tell me, hey Dave, do this or do that. And I've got a couple more stories like that where the Lord spoke, and that very timely. And when I say he spoke, it wasn't to my ears, it was my brain, like it was my thought voice speaking loud and to me, and not my ears. But I just wanted to share that story, and hope that encourages you that the Bible says that the sheep hear my voice, and he's still speaking, and he wants to speak to you. If you have ears to hear, just quiet your thoughts and believe that he speaks, and I just pray that whatever's hindering the lines of communication between you and the Lord, that it would just be broken down. Unbelief, or a history of praying and not hearing, that it just would be taken out of the way, and that your ears would be open, your heart would be open, your mind would be quieted, your thoughts would be quieted, so that you could hear his still small voice, that he would guide you, that he would lead you in the way everlasting.